Guys, BigSquareRoadRooter.com. Who says crime doesn't pay? The criminal of criminals, Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan Chase, gets a raise to $31.5 million after record 2019 profit at JP Morgan. Woohoo! Way to go, Jamie Dimon. And those who say that Americans' engine of power is the greatest economic engine ever doesn't understand it's the most fraudulent economic engine ever. And JP Morgan is right at the height. Jamie Dimon is leading that economic engine of the United States of America with, $55 trillion in derivatives chugging right down the road. No problem here. Jamie Dimon got a 1.6% raise to $31.5 million for his work in 2019 after his bank posted record earnings and shares of the company surged. Jamie's compensation package includes $1.5 million in salary and $30 million in performance-based incentives. Let's talk about Jamie's performance. August 20th, from the Department of Justice of the United States, precious metals traders plead guilty to conspiracy and spoofing charges. A former precious metals trader at the London, Singapore, and New York offices of a U.S. bank, in quotations, Bank A, pleaded guilty today to conspiracy and spoofing charges associated, so says the FBI office. Christian Troons, 34, of London, England. All you have to do is look up who he worked for. JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon trader. This is August of the year that JP Morgan had its best year. August 20th, 2019. This is from the Department of Justice website. Check it out. And let's go to the next month, September 16th. Current and former precious metals traders charged with multi-year manipulation, racketeering, conspiracy. 2 precious metal traders and 1 former trader in the New York offices of Bank A were charged in an indictment unsealed today for their alleged participation in a racketeering conspiracy. Racketeering and other federal crimes in connection with the manipulation of markets for precious metals futures contracts, which spanned over 8 years. Jamie Dimon came into JP Morgan as the CEO 2005. He was the CEO of Bank One before that, started in 2000. They merged. Greg Smith, 55, of Scarsdale, New York, joined Bank A in May of 2008. May of 2008. Michael Nowak, 45, of Montclair, New Jersey, managing director and ran Bank A's global precious metals desk. Joined Bank A in July of 1996. That's how long that criminal has been going on. Christopher Jordan, 47, of Mountainside, New Jersey, joined Bank A in March of 2006. This is insane. And Jamie Dimon gets a huge bonus because he had the best year ever at JP Morgan. Then November 15th, another Justice Department release. Superseding indictment charges former precious metals salesman with racketeering conspiracy. 3 others previously charged in connection with manipulation of markets for precious metals futures contracts all worked for Bank A. Bank A. Bank A. Jamie Dimon gets $31.5 million raise after record 2019 profit at Bank A. Who says crime doesn't pay in the United States of America? I want you to look at this. JP Morgan, how much in penalties have they declared? Since 2000, mostly under Jamie Dimon, total penalties paid for criminal activity to stay out of jail, $34.5 billion in penalties have been paid by Jamie Dimon and friends. You rob the 7-Eleven across the street from Jamie Dimon's headquarters, for $100, you're going to jail. You rob trillions from everybody, from the person just buying their first home. Look at the abuses. 135 times. Look, toxic security abuses, $13.4 billion. Mortgage abuses, that's you, your house. You paid more so Jamie Dimon could get his bonus. Mortgage abuses, $5.3 billion, 5 times. 5 times they busted for the same thing and just paid for it with cash. Because they make a hell of a lot more on the crimes than they do paying off the regulators. Investor protection violations, $4.5 billion. Banking violations, $4 billion. Anti-money laundering deficiencies, $2 billion. Consumer protection violations, $981 million. False Claims Act and related, $416 million. Foreign exchange market manipulation, $550 million. This is just the fines they paid. They even factor the fines in as part of calculating the return on the deal. I think it's 2% they put in because they know they're going to have to pay overall 2%. So 98% is going to be pure profit. It's insane. But that's the beauty of America. The best economic engine ever. Pure, unadulterated fraud. And my favorite is JP Morgan was the only banker to Bernie Madoff. The only banker to Bernie Madoff. And they admitted it. Well, they didn't admit it. They paid a fine, of course. Jamie Dimon, under his watch, paid $1.4 or $1.7 billion to get out of that one. That was one of their biggest fines ever. But how much money did they make off a $50 billion Ponzi scheme? It wasn't a Ponzi scheme either. Much deeper than they tell you. Manhattan U.S. Attorney and FBI Assistant Director in charge announced filing of criminal charges against and deferred prosecution agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase in connection with Bernie Madoff's multi-billion-dollar Ponzi scheme. And who was the attorney? Preet Bharara. We all know that name. Deep state attorney. Let me tell you, the 1.7 was a cover-up for one of the biggest frauds ever in the history. Mossad was involved. The deep state was involved. It was bad. Jamie Dimon was happy to pay 1.7 to sweep that under the rug. All the crimes they committed during that spree. It even touches upon some of them. JP Morgan failed to carry out its legal obligations with Bernie Madoff, built his massive house of cards. Since 1986, JP Morgan and its predecessor institutions served as a primary bank through which Madoff ran his Ponzi scheme. Madoff Securities maintained a series of linked checks and brokerage accounts at JP Morgan, collectively referred to as the 703 account. Madoff was a client of the bank's broker-dealer banking group and an investment bank group that comprised personnel from various business lines that serviced the needs of broker-dealer clients. JP Morgan designated a banker as Madoff's relationship manager who was principally responsible for Madoff's business with the bank, as well as for the bank's first-line SBA responsibilities, including certifying that the Madoff relationship complies with relevant legal and regulatory-based policies and that the necessary due diligence had been performed. There was only one guy who reported to one guy, JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon. Is that guy in jail? No. Is Jamie Dimon in jail? No. Insane. And people were trying to call it out. Listen to this. In the early 1990s, the bank learned that Madoff and a prominent client of JP Morgan's private bank were engaged in what looked like round-tripping check-kiting transactions. Another bank involved in these transactions, Madoff Bank Number 2, recognized them as suspicious and without legitimate business purpose. In or about 1996, so 6 years later, unlike JP Morgan, Bank 2 not only filed a suspicious activity report with law enforcement, but it actually closed down Madoff's account. So the SEC knew also. As a result, Madoff moved all his accounts from Madoff Bank 2 to JP Morgan, where the size of these transactions became much larger. For example, in December 2001 alone, the private bank client engaged in approximately $6.8 billion of transactions with Madoff through a series of circular $90 million transfers. And these guys didn't go to jail. Over the years, other parts of the bank developed their own suspicions of Madoff. In 2006, an entirely different part of the bank, a derivatives trading desk located in London branch of JP Morgan's investment bank, became interested in Madoff. The trading desk began receiving requests to issue derivatives tied to the performance of various Madoff feeder funds that send investor money to Madoff securities. In order to hedge and offset the risk created by these products, JP Morgan invested the bank's own capital directly into feeder funds. The bank initially issued about $100 million of Madoff-linked products from 2006 to early 2007. Then, because of continued demand for these products, in the summer of 2007, the traders of the London desk sought to write more than $1 billion in Madoff-linked derivatives, a large derivation from normal risk limits, which Jamie Dimon had to sign off on, which therefore had to be approved by the investment bank's chief risk officer. In June 2007, the chief risk officer convened a committee to consider authorizing the request of more than $1.3 billion of the bank's proprietary capital to be directly invested into Madoff feeder funds, to hedge the issuance of additional derivative products tied to the performance of the Madoff feeder funds. Ultimately, the chief risk officer, who at one point was told by a senior colleague that there was a, quote, well-known cloud over the head of Madoff and that his returns are speculated to be part of a Ponzi scheme, unquote, rejected the proposal and set the Madoff risk limit at $250 million. So you find out it's a Ponzi scheme and you say, okay, but we'll give you $250 million. Nice risk officer. Over the next several months, JP Morgan began to have increasing concerns about its exposure to Madoff. Unbelievable. That, my friends, in America, gets you a $31 million raise. Well, total salary of $31 million. It is supposedly Jamie Dimon in public records owns about $500 million worth of JP Morgan stock. For a crime well done. Congratulations, Jamie Dimon. Let's go to Road to Ruta and do a search for JP Morgan or Jamie Dimon. Let's just do JP Morgan. JP Morgan. Oh, Morgan. On the Road to Ruta, you will find 401 articles on JP Morgan. I dug deep into JP Morgan for a long time, especially when Jamie Dimon came on. 71 articles just about Jamie Dimon, the criminal of criminals. But this is America, and crime pays handsomely. This has got to end. Big Swear, roadtoruta.com. Hey, this is Big Swear. I have a new song about some old acquaintances of mine, the bankers. It's amazing how you can rob a 7-Eleven for a couple $100 and end up with a year in jail. And if you wear a suit and work on Wall Street, you can rob the whole world of billions, if not trillions of dollars and pay a fine and still get your bonus the next year. Probably get promoted. So this song is for the likes of the bankers we all know and love. It's called Hey Mr. Banker. Hey Mr. Banker, I can see you play your dirty games, but you ain't fooling me, creating money out of thin air. You lend it to the people, but the money never was there. Foreclosing on the sheeple when it all falls apart and we are down on one knee. You demand a bailout and a get out of jail card free. Whoa, you're just a criminal in a fancy suit. criminal. Stealing everyone's loot, just a criminal. And you'll get yours one day when the people find out. They're gonna lock you away. Hey, Mr. Banker, I see what you're doing. You're rigging markets higher, derivatives are brewing. You tell us all it's different, gonna go up forever. And secretly you're short, thinking you're so damn clever. When you finally rig it down and watch everybody drown, you steal the real assets, get the heck out of town. Whoa, you're just a criminal. In a fancy suit, you're just a criminal. Stealing everyone's loot, just a criminal. You'll get yours one day when the people find out. They're gonna lock you away. Hey, Mr. Banker, I think you're in trouble. The people are awake and we're arising from the rubble. And don't you go and hide now, 'cause we are gonna find you and drag you through the town square, expose what you've been up to. The justice will be swift, we're gonna lock you in a hole. I'd hate to be you, God have mercy, mercy, mercy on your soul. Whoa, you're just a criminal in a fancy suit, just a criminal. Stealing everyone's loot, just a criminal. You'll get yours one day when the people find out. They're gonna lock you away. Oh, you're just a criminal in a fancy suit, you're just a criminal. Stealing everyone's loot, just a criminal. You'll get yours one day when the people find out. They're gonna lock you away.